welcome to today's webinar brought to you by the Canadian Professional Sales Association and of course our accredited partner Lisa Leitch of Teneo Results. Today's webinar is called Road Warriors to Tech Titans, How to Confidently Sell Virtually. This interactive webinar will be focused on the changes needed to turn your sales team of road warriors into tech titans who are effectively selling virtually. Your host today is Lisa Leitch, CSP2 and CSL and President and Sales Strategist at Teneo Results. Lisa is driven by the mantra, be strategic, be proactive, be brave, and has been successfully training and coaching sales leaders and their teams to do the same for over 15 years. She has worked with the CPSA as a strategic and accredited partner for the past 12 years, training hundreds of corporate sales teams. Lisa recognizes that the competitive sales landscape is ever changing and that sales teams need to evolve with the times. She transitioned salespeople away from the standard product and price approach that isn't enough to deliver revenue in today's market. Rather, she trains and coaches salespeople to upgrade their skills, set goals, and have purposeful business conversations with their customers that generate real results. She also understands what it takes to be successful in sales, as she was one of the top multi-million-dollar sales professionals in her industry, which earned her the role of VP of Sales and Client Services. Many clients from the marketing and promotional, financial, home building material, agriculture, and manufacturing sectors ask Lisa to work with them for 3 months to 3 years or more. Lisa is a CSP, Certified Sales Professional, and Certified Speaker Professional, the only female in Canada to hold the dual designation, along with the recent CSL Certified Sales Leader designation. Please note that all of today's attendees have been placed on mute for the duration of this webinar, and that you may ask any questions at the end using the question function in your GoToWebinar dashboard. Also, stay tuned until the end of the webinar for a special offer on membership from the CPSA. Now, without further ado, I'll hand it over to Lisa to start.
Well, good morning, Ruplan. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. And you're right. We've always helped salespeople to navigate, and it's quite a roller coaster ride in 2020. It's a good thing we didn't realize what we were expecting. Certainly 6 months ago is when all of this COVID situation arose and certainly forced all of us to be selling a little bit differently. So today, I'm going to share with you what that takes. So Teneo Results is the Latin word meaning to know, to integrate, and to master. And this is what we're looking to do, is how do we truly now master virtually selling? Because the reality is, even though we've been in this for 6 months, we will continue to probably be in this state for at least another 6 to 12 months. So we need to really look at how do we move from being road warriors to mastering, how do we become tech titans so we can confidently sell virtually. And our mantra, be strategic, be proactive, and be brave, is never more true than it is right now. That's exactly what it's going to take. Rejigging your strategy, being proactive to try new things, and ultimately be brave to sell virtually and use all of the different technology that is available today to still work with clients. And people are still buying, customers are buying, and we're going to share with you some of those industries that are having some great success. So today we got a full agenda, jam-packed. It's great to see we've just crossed the 100 mark. So thanks for everybody taking the time today to be here. So we're going to take a look at, first of all, how it begins with your mindset and focusing on what you can do. Many of you know how important self-talk is. Yet we've got a roller coaster ride. And why do we need to take consideration to the change curve, and why sometimes there's some resistance? We'll take a look at what are the 5 factors that are widening the sales performance gap. We interviewed a number of buyers. I did so in the spring, and then I moderated a panel last week in one of our famous Cracking the Code sessions, and they shared with us exactly what to do and what not to do in order to be able to get their attention virtually. And yes, they find virtual selling is far more efficient and even effective. And then we're going to take a look at, certainly the spring was a very soft market for most industries, and yet sales goals are not changing. So we need to take a look at what are the sales strategies that you can deploy to accelerate the recovery, and yet at the same time look at what we can do to start not only selling for this fall, but preparing for a much stronger 2021. As Rupalyn said, we will have time for questions, but please put them in the chat box, the question box throughout. Again, if it's suitable at that time related to some of the different aspects that we're going through, we will certainly answer them, because as you know, my style, we love to have an interactive and engaging audience. So in the chat box, if you can find that chat box there on your screen, what is it that you love the most about being a road warrior? Meeting with your customers on the road, in your car. I've had a few exceptions to be able to do that in the last couple of weeks, but what is it that you love the most? Or what is it that maybe you're missing the most about being that road warrior? So again, we're gonna invite you to actually share some of that in the chat box so that we can hear what is it that you love about being a road warrior and also are missing the most. And while you're doing that, we're gonna walk through. We are big believers, and CPSA's vision is sales a respected career of choice. Many of us, like myself, fell into sales by accident. But what we want to do is to take a look at how we can move through what we call the high-performing consultative states and culture. Ultimately, what we're seeing is that there are many people who are doing exceptionally well, and the cream will rise to the top. So let's just take a look at what these 4 states look like. So the first state is what we call the non-consultative culture, sometimes referred to as transactional selling. People are so busy being able to take orders. They're in a hurry, their customers are in a hurry, salespeople are in a hurry, and they're just trying to be able to process those orders. So that is what we call the non-consultative culture. The second state is the inconsistent consultative culture, or sometimes referred to as even the relationship selling. So again, we very much focus on our great clients, the people that we love and they love you. Now, you may have had some training around consultative selling, and so you are applying it, but not consistently. There are also times when your customers will take you back from being consistently consultative, because the first question that comes out of their mouth is, hey, what's new? What new products do you have? Or the good question of, what's your best price here? So again, we fall back into that inconsistent culture. We're going to be talking about the gap and how that gap is even widening and what COVID is doing to expand on that. The third gap is adopted. So, and I see a number of sales professionals here who've earned their CSP designations. They've adopted the consultative selling, practicing the 8 steps, or what we call the purpose consultative framework, and are consistently doing so. They've even expanded it to the rest of their organization, and they'll see their customer service team, inside sales. Everybody is really adopting that customer-focused, consultative, high-performing state. It's hard to stay here though, because again, customers are first to be able to say, hey, what's new? Or what's your best price? And it moves us back into state number 2. So again, state number 3 is consistently practicing diligently the adopted consultative state. And the 4th state, the creme de la creme, is the expert consultative culture. You know you're in this state when customers call you rather than you calling them. It's when they call you and say, hey, Joe, you know, we're trying to be able to figure out how we're going to rejig our strategy and our go-to-market strategy. So we want you to be a part of the planning process. We want to be able to get your expertise and your advice. And in many of those cases, you have such a strong, not just relationship with that customer, but a partnership, sometimes even exclusive, where you are the solution provider for your category. You are recognized as being having a great reputation, both you as a salesperson and your organization for being the best in class. That's the creme de la creme. And we've been asking buyers, what is the percentage of people that are at that state? So I love to be able to ask the question, you know, what state are you in, and why are you there? And is COVID having that impact? So let's just take a look at, as we go through this, and as we change from being that road warrior and that traditional consultative seller, we need to be able to shift our thinking and looking at how do we continue to be that expert even in this virtual environment. And at Teneo, we very much take a look at the sales process and look at the various conversations in the sales process in order to be able to get to that final yes. So first one starts off with your own self-talk. And then we need to rejig our own strategy. We need to come up with more compelling reasons to meet virtually, because the majority of customers are just not allowing people, certainly not salespeople, in their offices. When we do have the opportunity to be able to meet virtually, we need to take a look at how it's purposeful. So again, applying that consultative conversation. And ultimately, we want to take a look at how do we get those final yeses. And they may be a bit fewer and farther between, but in speaking and working with so many different industries, there are business out there. So yes, you can do so. You may just have to work a little bit harder. And with one particular team I was working with this week, we realized that closing challenges are much more of a challenge, but it takes grit. And when you've got tenacity and grit, you can win more business and still be able to achieve and even exceed your sales goals for 2020. So in looking at this, at the beginning of the year, 2020, everybody was excited about an incredible new decade, new year. Many of your sales leaders, and I know who some of those are, wanted you to be able to go from here to there very, very quickly. How quickly could we be able to move and create some great growth during 2020 and where we want to be able to be in the next 3 to 5 years? But the reality is change doesn't happen that easily, right? And a lot of times when we've had time to think about change, we can embrace it and we can get excited about where the vision and goals are. But the reality is, here's what happens. It's a roller coaster. And so let me just explain the 4 states of the change curve, because it might help you to understand where are you right now. Now, many of you put the pause button on, right? And we realized that maybe we could just do a little bit of status quo. So again, we're seeing that some salespeople are still able to be those road warriors, be able to be on the road. And you're hoping if we just put the pause button in place, everything will return real quickly, right? We thought a couple of weeks, then a couple of months. Now it could really be a couple of years. And some of you may have actually started to dip. This disruption is really, really impacting you both physically, mentally, and your sales capabilities. Some people, there's all sorts of levels of anxiety, depression, anger, fear, or what's the unknown. And so what's happening is we're seeing that there are a lot more salespeople who are getting stuck here at the bottom of this change curve. But what we have to do is to take a look at, we got to look at exploring different ways to still achieve our sales. And I will admit, as a business owner, as still a chief sales officer, we have been exploring all sorts of ways to be able to get business. And it is working, not as brisk, but boy, has it forced us to think outside of the box. And there are a lot of really great silver linings that is happening with this. So again, the more we explore, we can start to actually embrace that and start to be able to move up this curve in order to be able to increase our commitments. And commitment is a really, really important trait. It's what we need to be able to look at what we're going to do to commit to being able to confidently sell virtually, achieve our sales goals, and start to be able to plan for a much stronger 2021. Okay? So those are, again, the different factors. So again, I want you to take a look at, where you're at in the change curve. And again, be realistic, and then we'll take a look at what we can do to be able to help you to explore and even get to the top of that change curve. So let's take a look at, though, what's not changing. COVID is not going away. We thought it was only going to be a short time, and as I've said, it could be here for at least another 6 to 12 months. We're seeing a number of organizations continue to deploy their people working remotely well into 2021. Even though it's back to school, it's not back to office. So one of the trends that we've seen is, even though all of the kids are going back to school, people are not going back to their offices. So again, we're seeing a lot of people especially salespeople who are still working remotely and continuing to do that. Okay, there's limited business travel. In working with all the different clients that we work with, I would say 95% of the sales teams are restricted travel. If they are, they can only travel during the day. They have to have special permission to stay overnight. And certainly it's an exception to get on a plane. And I did do that in Edmonton back in July. We planned this. I thought it was going to be great. And I have to admit, I was just excited to get on that plane. I was missing my weekly travel. But the reality is we're going to have a limited business travel. Trade shows, events, and conferences are all going virtual. And we're all trying to be able to figure out, how do we work those virtual trade shows a little bit differently and generate leads? And the ability to be able to meet face-to-face is going to be the exception, not the norm. And again, we're seeing some interesting signs of what's happening for this fall. We're going to be hearing from Premier Ford today as to, is there going to be any further restrictions put into place, at least in Ontario, as we see some of the cases rise throughout the provinces. So again, we need to take a look at how do we continue to keep this economy alive, vivacious, and salespeople can certainly be critical to that success. So some of you may say, oh, Lise, this isn't what we're wanting to be able to hear. It's the reality though. And the first thing that we have to do, the very first conversation we have to have is a conversation with ourselves before we can have a conversation with anybody, whether it be face-to-face or virtually. So we need to take a look at, what is your sales mindset on this? Is this something where you're taking a look at how do you embrace this or not? And I want you to take a look at, we've come a long way in 6 months. What obstacles have you already overcome? So again, this is a great template that is available. And if you're interested in this template, you can certainly contact us or put it in the chat box. We're happy to actually send our templates. And this is one of the first templates that are available in our Road Warriors program. So Rupalyn, let's open up the polls. And let's find out what is impacting your self-talk the most. So Rupalyn, can we open up that poll?
Yeah, just launching now.
Awesome. Okay. And so what is the self-talk that needs to change the most to confidently sell? So we're going to have you choose one. So I can learn different virtual platforms because it's not just Zoom or Teams or WebEx. You need to be proficient in all of those. Customers and buyers will buy from me virtually. I can sell as well virtually as face-to-face. I can do interactive lunch and learns or demos using virtual platforms with polls and chat box. Or is it I must embrace virtual selling as face-to-face customer meetings will be the exception this fall? So let's just take a look to see. Oh, it's great to see. I can see the populating right here. Let's give it another 30 seconds. So what is the self-talk that needs to change the most? We've got two frontrunners here.
People are still voting.
Yep. We've got about 72% of people have voted. Awesome. Great interaction. Hopefully people have stopped looking at their emails. Okay. We've got about 80%. So let's end the poll.
And I'll share the results now.
Excellent. Super. Thanks, Rupalyn. Great teamwork here.
So we've got 47% saying that they must embrace virtual selling as face-to-face customer meetings. 27% say I can sell as well virtually as face-to-face.
Good. Okay, excellent. Okay, so what people are realizing is it's a reality. We're gonna have to embrace this, right? And that they also realize that, because everybody says, well, I'm much better in front of my customer. Yes, we know that that is a great way to be able to interact, but you can still build trust, rapport, and earn business. So I'm glad to see that people are looking at how they can actually embrace this. So this is great. Okay, we've got a couple more polls throughout. So stay tuned. So I love this quote by Zig Ziglar. You can change everything about your business by changing your thinking about your business. So again, it begins with our own mindset. And that is so critical to the success of salespeople. So again, taking a look at what we can do. So what I'm going to share with you is our team has sat back, and as we've been working with lots of teams here during the past 6 months, we've seen a lot of really interesting trends and factors. And even though we all want to be those road warriors, you know, that gap in the road has widened during COVID. So I'm going to share with you these 5 factors that we've realized that are impacting sales performance. And as we go through these, we'll also weave in, you know, some of the tips that we have in order to be able to overcome that. But I want you to think about which one of these factors is impacting you the most. Because in order for us to be able to move forward, we need to be able to figure out how we're going to jump over these obstacles, okay, and move through that gap. That's what a great, successful sales professional will be able to do. So let's take a look at it. The first gap is that human disconnection. So salespeople love to be with their customers, and there's teams, their vendors, and even their leader. So that human disconnection is really having an impact. Many of you have been working amongst your 4 walls, sometimes even in your bedroom, in order to be able to do that. And salespeople are truly missing that human disconnection. So again, we need to be able to figure out, how do you overcome that? And there are lots of ways to be able to get engaged. One-on-one coaching. We were working with a number of teams who are doing daily huddles, and those worked well in the beginning. Some of them got a little bit mundane. So again, they're putting a little bit of a different focus. Each salesperson has a different topic, or each day of the week is able to be a little bit differently. What do we want to accomplish this week? So maybe training tips. What are our successes? Looking at different ways to be able to keep the team engaged, both professionally and also personally. Doing something for yourself. They're also looking at, how do they ring the sales bell? And I've got one team that says, we're not only ringing the sales bell, we're ringing the bell every time we get paid, because even accounts receivable is becoming a little bit widened. So again, we need to take a look at fun things. There's been lots of cocktail hours. Some people are able to still get together physically. There's been golf games, coffee in the parking lot. But again, we need to take a look at innovative and fun ways, especially as we move into the fall and winter. The second gap is commitment. And so what we've realized is, and as COVID has continued to elongate, the reality is salespeople's desire, commitment, and motivation has decreased. People moved more into a service mindset and wanting to service their customers, wanted to be sensitive to selling. And the reality is selling with sensitivity has diminished their focus and commitment to goals. Yet, in working with so many sales leaders, those sales goals have not changed. The number is still there, and people are wanting to ensure that people are there to be able to achieve that. So we work very closely and represent the objective management sales assessments. This is a great tool to really evaluate, and we've had a lot of different sales leaders evaluate their sales team. It's based on 21 competencies. What's great about this is it looks at both will and skill. The reality is that commitment score has decreased, and that's a reality. And again, people might be, am I as committed? We just have to ask ourselves and then take a look at what can we do. So again, just like all high-performing teams, we have to be able to evaluate where are our strengths, where are the gaps that again are being widened, and what is it that we can do in order to be able to improve our performance. So again, one of that is that commitment. A low desire and commitment can change by getting excited about some goals. So again, as we move into the fall, what can you get excited about? Maybe redoing your strategy, maybe coming up with something new. Again, what is it that you can do to get excited, committed for your goals and your company goals? Because if you're working in isolation and they're underperforming, it could lead to voluntary turnover on your team. And that's exactly what you don't want. I heard another sales leader say, you know, we really need to be able to make sure we put our arms around the people who are not feeling as committed or not performing as well. Because again, we want to be able to put our arms around and coach them, help them to feel committed, help them to feel good, and get back on top of their sales game. What we need to do is to get excited about being a winning team. And that winning team can be defined in so many different ways. At Teneo, we actually came up with, at the beginning of August, what we call Operation 5. We're looking at how we improve the services of 5 different services. There was 5 months, right? And really taking a look at how we can get excited and committed about doing things differently during these next 5 months. And that's really, really helped to be able to improve our motivation and commitment. So next we want to take a look at the next gap, prospecting. The reality, trade shows, events, and conferences are not safe or viable options to generate leads. So we have to take a look at what can we do, because what's happening is pipelines are starting to get a little bit thin. Many salespeople were doing an incredible job of following up on all those opportunities in their funnel, but we need to be able to make sure we're continuing to put opportunities back in that funnel. And we've had a lot of fun this summer when we worked with many different teams. We created our Summer Sizzle Prospecting Blitz. We wanted to be able to help people during July, August, and September to put their pedal to the metal in order to be able to increase those opportunities. Most people were becoming, well, we heard some cottage reps. And again, this was the opportunity to be able to do that. And there was some incredible teams who've had some great successes. So here's a little tip. The entire team was committed to doing 5 calls by 5. So the 5 by 5 or 10 by 10, 10 calls by 10 a.m. That's exactly what I have been using and doing that much more often. It was a weekly habit. I expanded to do it 2 to 3 times a day, or 2 to 3 times a week. One of the things you have to do is you just can't cut and paste. You need to research your prospect and then customize. I went onto a website and I noticed that this sales leader did an incredible video in her backyard. So I actually took my laptop, did the same thing, just did a video this morning in my backyard and sent it back to her in order to get her attention, customizing. And I was able to do that because I was on her website and researching what she was currently doing. We've done some things for helping people with the 5P email writing formula, which Steve Solomon and I introduced that as a webinar last year with CPSA. We know the double whammy works. Buyers are telling us they have more emails than ever. So the double whammy of phone call, email, or text, email, LinkedIn message, the combination of 2 different ways works. And one of the buyers actually said you have to do the double whammy. She said an email, a phone call, and then another email and phone call because she's just too busy. She's not trying to ignore you. She just is being stretched too thin like most buyers and salespeople are. And as I just shared, you've got to be creative. And we've been having some fun with those video emails and using different video platforms in order to be able to break through that clutter. So again, a 90-day prospecting blitz is what will help to reduce that gap. The other thing that it does is it helps you to really embrace your CRM. One of our clients, Pacesetter Sales, has done an incredible job of deploying the 90-day prospecting blitz. But what I have been most impressed is they're putting all of those opportunities in their CRM. And when we're on those calls, we can see exactly where everybody is, keeping the pipelines full. So the next gap, the 4th gap, that is COVID is widening, is the way we consultatively sell. Certainly CPSA is very, very much known for the consultative selling approach. And this is one of the things we have to do. We've got to get really, really good at being able to sell consultatively. And one of the things here is the reality is customers and buyers no longer have time for those check-in or even that COVID talk. They're beyond that. What we're also seeing in the OMG assessment is that some of the consultative selling scores are decreasing. And at first we were a bit baffled by this. But then when we went back and realized this, is what's happening is people are feeling a little bit more rushed. So even though they may be doing a telephone call or a virtual call, this is the opportunity to be able to really follow that consultative framework. We've developed what we call the purpose framework. So again, you have to be able to have a purpose. It just can't be a check-in. You need to be prepared. You need to understand the personality style, generation, and decision-making role of that buyer. You can still develop rapport and trust on video, right? But many of those buyers said, we want you to get right into the purpose of the meeting. Don't spend a lot of time chit-chatting about the impact of COVID. Ask more and better questions about what they're doing to change their business, what their plans are, how you can do what you can do to be able to make them look good. Demonstrate you're listening by summarizing their needs, collaborating on solutions that will solve their problem. They don't want to be buying more products, more solutions. It's got to perfectly fit to be able to solve that solution. And then being able to execute the next steps. Schedule a call where you can come back and present that proposal that's going to solve that problem. And again, do so virtually. Just don't email the quote. So again, interesting thing about selling virtually is most people don't want to turn their cameras on. And that is probably one of the questions that I get asked the most. Lisa, how do I get my customer to turn on their cameras? I just simply say, hey, good morning. Hey, can we all turn our cameras on so that we can see each other? And then you can quickly build rapport. You'll see I'm not using a virtual background here. This is my office. It's on the other side of my desk. So I've got this set up so that people can see I love to read, right? So again, it tells you a little bit about them. And that's how you can build trust and rapport. Again, what buyers are saying, and we'll take a look at their tips, is they want you to be as prepared or even more prepared to do a virtual call as you are face-to-face. So if you were doing that, you would be prepared. You would have your information physically and mentally, which means being dressed up. Okay, take that suit jacket, put it on the back of your chair, and put it on when it's time to be able to meet with your customer. If you wear a suit jacket when you meet with a customer face-to-face, then it's suitable to do so there. Right? If you wear a golf shirt, well, then wear a branded golf shirt. But dress the way you would meet with them face-to-face. That's exactly what buyers are saying. There's too much casual, t-shirts, ball caps, and again, buyers want to be able to see a professional approach. They're even suggesting an agenda, right? So there's purpose. Many of them are giving the tip, send it in advance. If you've scheduled 30 minutes for the call, confirm the 30 minutes, but don't rush. Ask the really great questions. And ultimately, the purpose of your conversation is to find what is going on in their business and what you can do with a solution that will help them to improve their business. That's what everybody's looking for. Otherwise, it's easy to say, you know what, we've put all budgets on hold. But if you can show that you can solve their problem, improve their business, then they will find the dollars and validate that. An interesting stat. Only 27% of salespeople truly listen while they're on a virtual call, and only 25% are asking enough questions. So let's role reverse that. Those 75%, here's an opportunity for you to be able to improve to get to the top of that consultative state. And in order to help you to do that, we've got a great template. Again, ways to be able to prepare before the conversation and then during the purpose conversation. Many people would say to me, oh, I don't want my customer to see that, you know, I've got this template that I'm using, right? You can even use this template much more effectively and efficiently because they can't see that. You can have it right beside you where as your notes right there. So again, it's a great framework to help you confidently sell consultatively in a virtual call. If you're really wanting to evaluate, we've got a great video coaching tool, and I've been testing this, and it's been great. So we can see exactly how much talking do you do versus the customer. And again, you'll see in this particular one, this was a great one. The rep only spoke 32% of the time and asked 16 questions, and there were 54 switchbacks, so it was great interaction. Whereas in this particular one, you can see that the rep did 60% of the talking, and there were only 2 questions that were being asked. So again, this is a really great video coaching tool. It can be used for role plays. We're using it in our training. Some people are hesitant to be able to use it with the customer, but most calls are being recorded anyway. You could ask, hey, is it okay if I record this? Buyers, customers are willing to do that if they know it's going to help you to be able to improve your capabilities. So again, the simple solution is all you have to do is ask. So let's take a look at the 5th gap that is being impacted by COVID. This is presenting solutions. It is easy for salespeople to just email a quote or a specification, but that's what's not going to get you yes. What we want to do is to take a look at how you put together that proposal, schedule the next call virtually, and walk them through. And this is where you need to get really, really good. You need to be able to look at how do you provide a demo, be able to show them the solutions, walk through that. It takes a little bit of working to be able to make that work, but you may be able to show videos, you could show a demo, you can show a proposal, all of the things that you could simply do right from the fingers of your desktop. They want you to be a problem solver, not a presenter. So you've got to be able to demonstrate how your solution is going to be able to do that. And with one of our clients, Stack Tech, that's exactly what they did. Their robotics solution was more expensive, but they went back, customized it, showed exactly how it was going to make their operation more efficient. They said it took grit, but also won the business. And they were able to all do that virtually. So these are the 5 factors that are widening the performance gap. So let's open up the polls because we're going to take a look at those. So Ruplan, can we go to our polls here?
I'm just going to go ahead and launch now. So the poll is open. Lisa, do you want to read the question?
Certainly. So the question is, which factor is widening your sales performance gap? So we want you to choose one. Oh, we've gotten a number of people. So human disconnection, your commitment to your goals, prospecting, having a purpose consultative conversation while selling virtually, or is it presenting solutions that solve a problem? Great. We've got 50% of the people have already voted. Oh, interesting stats. Oh, look at this. This is great. We've got 80% of people have already voted. So we're going to give another 8 seconds and then we'll close the poll at the top of the minute.
Awesome. All right.
Okay, let's close that poll. And Ruplan, if you could actually share.
So the results were 35% human disconnection, 22% prospecting, and then 16% purpose consultative conversations, 15% presenting solutions to solve a problem, and 11% commitment.
Fascinating. It is amazing how that human disconnection is making such an impact. And this is where we really do need to take a look at how are we going to improve our own self-talk, because that's a key thing. The other secret weapon is a sales leader. So for those of you who are a sales leader, I want you to take a look at what can you do to be able to reduce that gap. Your team needs you, and your customers also need you too. And so again, I want you to be able to take a look at what you can do in order to be able to reduce that human disconnection. And again, I've had the opportunity to be able to even have new customers. There are people that I have not even met. Floyd from Diversco and I have become great friends. He's an incredible sales leader, and we've been able to develop rapport, trust, and business. So again, you can develop and have a connection to people virtually, and even with those people you've never even met with. So it's possible. But again, I'm going to encourage sales leaders are the secret weapon in order to be able to help their sales team overcome that. Okay. So here's where we want to take a look at. Leaders have a choice. There are 2 choices. You can wait for the COVID pause button to be released, but the reality is it's not. Or you can reset those strategies with your team, get them excited and excited and connected. That's exactly what we need to take a look at what we can do. So let's take a look at what can we do to turn road warriors For those of you who love being in your car and being disconnected, what can you do to accelerate that recovery? First of all, we got to change the game, right? Things have changed. If we look at sports teams, they're continuing to move on without an audience, and they're being able to perform. So again, you're not able to actually meet face to face, but many of you realize you can be as good or even better selling virtually as you can face to face. So we want to stretch you to the top of the high performing state, because this economy, these customers, your organizations and your customers' organizations need the best of the best sales professionals. We need to be able to exercise every muscle mentally and physically in order to be able to get in this game and become that tech titan. So I'm going to certainly invite you to be able to do that. Let's take a look at what buyers say, because if salespeople are feeling that human disconnection, are buyers feeling that way? Here's what's fascinating. I've been interviewing buyers all the way through. We always do our cracking the code. And I interviewed a couple of buyers last week, Ashton Williams and Susan Ryan of Home Hardware. Happy to be able to share that recording. Again, we can provide that to you. Here's what they've said. Virtual meetings are more efficient than face-to-face. And what you have to do is they can be just as effective. What you do need to know is what is their preference for a virtual platform, because that will make a difference. So again, you're going to have to get proficient on different platforms. What they also shared with salespeople can confidently sell virtually as well as face-to-face, and they're seeing some people are actually even improving. So again, it is possible, and buyers are liking it. They also reinforced they want you to be physically, professionally prepared as if you were face-to-face. If there was any advice, they find people are not as prepared to be able to do so. They want you to have a purpose. They prefer you send the agenda, even the PowerPoint. They've said in many cases, they won't even always look at that PowerPoint, but again, they want to be able to see what you're going to be talking about. They want it to be interactive. And again, allowing time, but staying within that time frame, because they've got back-to-back Zoom Teams calls to be able to do that. So allow that time. And if you don't have all the answers, that's okay. Susan Ryan actually says she prefers you don't have all the answers, because she prefers that you say, you know what? Great question. And she would rather you say, let me go find that out. Let me go involve some of our other team members, and I'll get back to you. But then secure the date and time as to when you're going to get back to her, and do so. That is the key. And she said you'll earn more respect when you don't have the answers, but get back to her with that. She said you've got to be more creative. All the buyers have said they've got more emails than ever. Now, what was fascinating is Susan said a good old-fashioned telephone call and an email would work with her, doing that double whammy. Whereas Ashton, who's a millennial working in the IT, said, I don't pick up my phone, let alone voicemail messages, but a LinkedIn message. Now, again, both of them said they get many emails, phone calls, LinkedIn messages, but it must be customized, personalized. That's what will get their attention. And lastly is, in both of their industries, they're seeing an increase in sales, but you're going to have to demonstrate the ROI to be able to show how your solution is going to be able to fix their problem or improve their business. Right? Again, going that extra mile and showing that grit. So again, buyers actually said they prefer virtual selling because it is much more efficient and effective. So you know what? We need to get our A game on and start to being able to demonstrate that you can be as good and even better selling virtually. So let's take a look at, and again, if people have questions, do we have any questions in the chat box before we move on to this next part of the strategies? Ruplan, any questions yet?
Commentary, Lisa. A few people asking about the recording for the webinar. Our webinars are always recorded and will be sent out to all attendees after the fact. Quite a few people asking about your template, Lisa, and how people can get a hold of your template.
Yeah, so the purpose template is right on our website. You can go to teneoresults.com and download that template. It's the purpose framework.
Perfect.
Good.
That's it for now, but please stay tuned, everyone, for the Q&A session at the end. Feel free to enter all of your questions now. Okay,
excellent, good. So let's take a look at, in order to change our mindset, here are the 7 strategies to accelerate the recovery and become a tech titan. First and foremost, you've got to change your mindset. If you think that and prefer to sell face-to-face than virtually, that's your mindset. You need to get on your A game. This is an incredible way for you to really get good at what you do, but it starts with your mindset. You need to set goals, not only sales goals, but set something that refuels you. I'm actually doing a triathlon on Saturday. There's only 3 of us. We're social distancing. But it's something that I love to run, for those of you who know me, but a triathlon is a real stretch for me, especially because I really probably haven't swam in 40 years. But it's got me excited, it's got me committed, it's got me a little nervous. Weather might be a little chilly in that lake on Saturday morning. But again, what is it that you can do to be excited about your goals? We're looking at different ways that we can reposition our services and get excited about that, and also the sales numbers. So again, choose something that can get you excited. Take a look at how you can create your ideal week, right? We're not getting in our cars or trucks and being able to travel. This is the opportunity. More salespeople and sales leaders are working more hours than ever. I've never been afraid to work hard, and I can't believe how many more hours I'm working for less sales. But again, we've got another template, the ideal week. Look at how you can actually maximize your time with your customers while working remotely in your home offices. It's important to prospect. We need to start taking a look at not just how we can secure sales now, but what we can be doing to plan for the 2021. And so a 90-day prospecting blitz is an ideal time. We've got the next 90 days between now and just before Christmas to be able to get in that virtual door and really fill your pipeline. Get really good and confident using virtual platforms. We love Zoom. We're seeing a lot more teams using Microsoft Teams. So our team feeling a little bit nervous, but we're playing around with it, becoming more confident and looking at what we can do to become more proficient in Teams to be able to do that. Use the consultative framework, the purpose framework. And again, you can download that on our website at teneoresults.com. Will help you to be confident. And it's great because you can have that cheat sheet right here beside you and your customer doesn't know. And the last thing is, it's going to take a lot of hard work. It's great, but you need to be able to not just provide quotes, but proposals that solve problems and be able to get really, really good. We were working with a team this morning and they've come a long way in being able to do virtual demos and being able to show how their equipment works. So again, get creative. And again, we'd love to have a conversation with you to help you to do that. So let's take a look at, this is our 3rd and final poll. If we can open that up, Rupelin.
Sure thing. Just going ahead to launch. So the question here is, which strategy will accelerate your recovery? Please choose 2.
So is it changing your mindset? Is it goals to get you excited and committed? Is it learning how to prospect virtually? We've been using BombBomb as a creative way to be able to do those video emails, that 90-day prospecting blitz. Is it getting really, really good at a consultative conversation using a virtual platform? Or is it looking for ways to not just email your quote, but present your proposal to solve a problem with a next step follow-up? So let's just take a look at.
Got about 70% voted.
Wow, this has been great. We've had a really great group here. And we're still well over 100 people on the call. Excellent. Yes. Okay, so 82% have voted. So let's wrap up this poll because we're getting close to the top of the hour.
And I'm sharing the results here. 43% are saying get really good and confident to apply purpose in a virtual meeting. 42% says changing your mindset. 39% says prospecting virtually with a 90-day prospect blitz. 30% says goals to get you excited and committed, and 22% is saying presenting proposals to solve problems with the next step.
So, and again, that purpose template is a great framework in order to be able to help you to do that. So again, download that from our website, teneoresults.com, and that's a great way to be able to do that. In addition, to be able to help you accelerate these strategies and become a tech titan, we've got a couple of programs that will also help you to accelerate those skills. So we've got our Purposeful Sales Strategies program, which is accredited by CPSA, a great program, and also leads to the CPSA designations, a great way to become that creme de la creme and move to the top of that consultative state, that high-performing state. We also have our new Road Warriors to Tech Titans program, a great program to rejig your driving territory into a strategic plan. Learn how to use the platforms, changing your mindset, looking at how you include a 90-day prospecting blitz, getting really, really good and confident at using different virtual platforms and that purpose framework and that 3-option proposal. So we've got these programs coming up. Our accredited programs with CPSA are on September 21st, November 13th, and we're working far out into January 2021. And we've turned those programs into interactive, virtually led. We've launched a number of them already. This spring, we've had incredible feedback because rather than coming to a course for a couple of days, these are 13 weeks, 90 minutes every week, in order to be able to learn in small chunks, apply with your customers, and get much better selling virtually during the week, and then being able to come back with your cohorts to be able to find out from other industries what's working and what's not working. Okay, and then our Road Warriors program is coming up on September 28th through 12 weeks. Again, great opportunities to be able to help you to do that. So what will your action be? Sales leaders who are on this call, sales professionals, what's your sales performance gap? Let's have a conversation. I love having a conversation, a one-on-one, so you can certainly go schedule that right on my website. I've even using a new calendar option, so you can literally book that in to be able to do that. Reach out to me. I see many of our clients, CPSA clients here on today's webinar. Love to have a conversation. So Rupelin, let's open it up. We've got a couple of minutes for questions. What questions do we have in the Q&A?
Perfect, Lisa. We do have a few questions here. How do you get people to agree to meet virtually with the occurrence of Zoom fatigue?
And so certainly that is an option, and that is a challenge these days. But you know what? I would say I send the calendar invite with the Zoom link. And that's just the way that I'm doing it. So, and rarely do I have anybody, I'm not sure if I haven't had anybody actually say, I don't want to do that. When we do meet Zoom, quite often people may not have their cameras on, but I'll just simply say, hey, I'd like to be able to actually meet you. Can we turn on our cameras? Now, I had one person last week that said, okay, I'll turn my camera on. Here's where I am, but I'm going to turn it off for 2 minutes because I'm eating my breakfast. That's okay. But I think as salespeople, we have to just simply be brave and ask. And that's all I'm doing. And just saying, hey, can we turn on our cameras? There's one of our clients. He had a very interesting background. And so I said, Jim, my goodness, where are you working from? And I learned, even though I have been working with him for a number of years, he has an old church he's converted into his home. So again, all you have to do is simply ask. Okay? And it's no different than buyers who used to meet with salespeople one right after another. So there is Zoom fatigue, but again, this is the way to be able to make it work. Okay, what's another question that we have?
Thanks so much, Lisa. The next one here is, how do you get your customer to also adapt to virtual selling?
How do you get your customer to adapt? So again, there's where people are starting to feel a little bit awkward. But again, you can just walk people through and say, because quite often they may want to be able to share their screen. So just walking them through, here's where you do, turn on your camera, take a few minutes to be able to help them, and say, hey, you know what, I realized that this was a challenge too. And I think the more you get proficient, the more you can actually help your customer to feel more comfortable, right, in being able to do that. So again, Ashton Williams, who was one of our buyers who used to work at the CPSA last week, she said, you know what, education is the best advice that she has. How can you help to educate your customers to feel comfortable with that virtual platform?
I think this next one is a really great question. So how are generations accepting the change? How do you get boomers on board with Zoom, GoToWebinar, etc.?
So, you know, it is interesting how people are thinking that the generations are having a little bit of a challenge adapting, but I want to ask you, my mom, who is 75 years old, has embraced Zoom, Facebook. They're all being able to do that with their families. So here's where I'm sometimes a little bit baffled why people are resistant to do so in work, yet that's how they've been able to communicate back in April and May. So again, there are some very, very savvy people. I'm sure some of you have got some savvy parents who figured out Zoom, who figured out different platforms this spring. So again, if your parents can do it, then so can your customers. If we look at this, there was a thing called the fax machine a number of years ago. We got beyond that, and look how we have been able to adapt our mobile devices. So I think we just have to be able to help them along. Any other questions that we have?
Yeah, we've just got one last one, which I think goes along the same line. So my customer base is largely maintenance personnel. They aren't a group that uses online platforms. Other than face-to-face, how do I reach them?
So here's where you may still be able to reach them by telephone, right? And then even ask them. I mean, we're seeing more and more communication via text. The challenge is text is great, but you can't have a consultative conversation via text. But with many of those maintenance people, they've got their mobile phones. They are using FaceTime. They're using video in order to be able to show you if you can't get into their factory or their mine. So again, they're using it as a great tool to be able to do that. So again, we have to take a look at what is working for them, and you can still use that as a tool to be able to do that. And again, people are walking through their factories, their plants, being able to show, especially because some of you are not allowed to be able to go into those facilities, it's still a great way to be able to do that. Okay, so we just don't have to use Zoom or our laptops. Our mobile device is also our best friend.
Thank you, Lisa.